Yeah, the attorney for one of those former officers, Tu Tao, is accusing prosecutorial misconduct. In a court filing, they are alleging Dr. Roger Mitchell, who at one point was going to be an expert witness, coerced Andrew Baker, he's the medical examiner, into changing his autopsy filings. In those court findings, it's alleged that Mitchell pressured Andrew Baker to report neck compression in the diagnosis of George Floyd's death. So that is definitely going to be something to watch for today. Meanwhile, this comes after a new court decision yesterday, which will play into Derek Chauvin's sentence. Judge Cahill has found 4 aggravating factors to consider. These factors open the door to go up to a 40-year maximum sentence. Cahill found first, Derek Chauvin abused his position of trust as a sworn police officer. Second, he treated Floyd with particular cruelty. Third, there were children present during the crime. And fourth, the act was committed with a group of at least 3 other people. These factors mean instead the judge now has the ability to go beyond the sentencing guidelines.
But having found 4 out of the 5 probably gives him more grounds for a greater sentence. But he only needed to find 1 to justify a departure upward.
So back to the hearing today, we know none of the 3 former officers will be attending. There will also not be cameras in the courtroom, so this will not be televised like Derek Chauvin's trial was. However, our Lou Raguse will be covering it. Of course, he is excellent at tweeting updates on this whole process, so expect that from him today.
Interesting developments, and we look forward to Lou's updates. Thanks for that this morning, Jennifer.
6:04.